Hi, I'm Nathan from Serious Geeks, and this video is going to be about the Canoptec Doomstalker and the Locust heavy destroyers that have been leaked to the internet. Starting with the latter, the Locust heavy destroyer, mainly because this is one of my favourite looking models they've released because of its comparison to the original Jez Goodwin artwork. I actually really like the rules for this model. Looking at the stats, we can see they are not particularly tough. I mean, they can take a bit of firepower, but a unit of 3 of them with 12 wounds will not be impossible to take out. However, their stat line is good enough to be in an army that has plenty of other target saturation, such as Canoptec destroyers or wraiths or other vehicles that may be bearing down on the opponent. Such things will largely take the attention away from these destroyers, these heavy destroyers, and thus it will allow them to operate with almost impunity, although I'm pretty sure once they've destroyed a vehicle or two, the opponents will probably target them afterwards. Looking at the stat line of these models, they are fairly standard for what you would expect for heavy destroyers. They hit on a 3+, and being destroyers, they're likely to have hardwired hatred to assist them in their actual killing of units when they target them. What makes this unit stand out, to me, is their basic weapon that they come stock with. The Gauss Destructor is an incredibly powerful weapon. Strength 10 means that there isn't a vehicle in the game that it can't wound on 3+. This is particularly critical when firing at very large targets, which you don't want to just have to plink wounds off using 6s, because they usually have quite a lot of wounds themselves. So things like knights or land raiders, even repulsors as well, all of which can have a toughness of 8 and sometimes go to toughness 9 depending on what supporting units are near them, i.e. a librarian with Might of Heroes. An AP of -4 means that it punches through 3+ armor saves without recourse to an armor save for that model, whilst particularly tough units such as Leviathan Dreadnoughts and Land Raiders will receive an armor save of just a 6+. This is critical because you've only got one shot per weapon and you want to make each shot count. A unit of 3 of these is probably the way to go in regards to that, because you want to get as many hits on the opponent as possible and as many wounds so that you can do a hefty amount of damage using the final stat line of the weapon, which is where the real benefit to this weapon comes in. As you can see, it does 3d3 damage per hit. This means each hit that gets through an opponent's armor save will cause a minimum of 3 damage and a maximum of 9, for an average of 6. Most vehicle units in the game will die from one volley of fire from 3 of these models. It's a little bit early to tell because we don't have the new Necron codex ahead of us, but at the moment we can use extermination protocols to boost this unit so that it is even more destructive for the target it's firing at. Being able to reroll hits and wound rolls would mean that you're rerolling hits of a 3 and wounds of a 3 most of the time, resulting in a lot of damage because you're likely to get at least 2, probably 3 Necron destroyers out of 3 causing their damage rolls on the opposing vehicle. For me, as a Necron player who fully intends to take advantage of things like Canoptec destroyers and the new Necron warriors actually in the kit for the Indomitus box set, I fully intend to be able to take out most infantry fairly handily. And where I think my list will be a little bit weak will be in the anti-vehicle sense. Hence why the Locust Heavy Destroyer is going to be critical to my plans. I will probably end up having 2 units of 3 of them. The unit will be mobile, they'll be incredibly damaging to the opponents, and I think they'll be auto-include in many lists, simply because of this power. Now a quick note on the alternative weapon, the Amnitic Exterminator. I'm not entirely convinced that it's going to be included in many choices. It doesn't seem particularly powerful. It's a strong anti-infantry weapon, and that it does quite a lot of shots with quite a lot of damage to the opponent in strength 7. AP -1, that's not too bad. However, do you really need that in a Necron force? We've already got in a Necron army plenty of other anti-infantry weapons. We have the Tesla weapons, we have actual Gauss blasters and Gauss rifles from the Necron warriors and immortals. We have Canoptec destroyers who will be carving into opponents in close combat. Wraiths that also perform a similar sort of role, anti-infantry as the Canoptec destroyers. I just don't really feel that the Locust destroyer fits into the Necron army basically as more of the same. You want it to be obliterating enemy armor units, things that you need removed from the table to continue winning the game or to give you a chance of winning the game, and things that you need to remove quickly that are big, large targets. You don't want to be doing 1 or 2 damage a turn to a land raider, for example, because it's going to be able to drop off its cargo and then continue to cause damage to you. You want to annihilate it in 1 decisive stroke, or at least give yourself the chance to do so, and that is where the heavy Locust destroyers come into it. And I think that means that we will very rarely see the Amnitic Exterminator over the Gauss Destructor. Moving on, the next unit that has been leaked to the internet is the Canoptec Doomstalker. In what appears to be a completely revitalised and reimagined version of the Necron army, such as the Doomsday Arc, this has a very similar weapon system and behaves in much the same way. If it remains stationary, you get the high-powered version of the weapon. If you move, you have to use the smaller, weaker shot, which is still fairly powerful if you look at the stat line for it. The biggest weakness to this unit is that it only hits on a 4+. However, anything it hits is going to cause a lot of damage to. So, depending on what special rules and stratagem support it gets in the new Necron Codex, it could be a very powerful tool to add to our army. Alternatively, it may just be a little bit inconsistent to be considered a staple for many armies, though I probably will recommend it in some aspects because it is an additional vehicle with quite a decent number of wounds, 12. It will be a Necron vehicle, which would probably mean it regenerates 1 wound a turn in 9th edition when the new codex comes out, and I'm sure it's going to have stratagem support. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see exactly what this thing can do with the full rules release, but I think it will be effective, but not quite as important to a Necron army player as a Locust heavy destroyer. The model looks great, so there's always a perfect reason to collect an army anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you all later. Peace out.